For 34 years, I waited for this moment. I prayed for a husband and I prayed for a baby. And now, looking at little Archie sleeping in my arms, I feel like my heart is going to explode. But this isn't exactly the fairy tale homecoming I imagined. If you look just outside this frame, there is a layer of drywall dust on everything. Stephen is in the other room with a sledgehammer, and we don't exactly have a fully functioning kitchen right now. People ask me, Jana, how are you handling a newborn in a construction zone? And honestly, some days I just cry. Today, I'm taking you inside our Nebraska fixer-upper, the good, the bad, and the messy. You'll see the moment we brought Archie home to a house with half a wall, the scary complications during the birth that no one knows about, and why, even in the middle of all this dust and debris, I've never been happier. Welcome to our beautiful, chaotic life. For so many years, I was the stay-at-home daughter. I watched my sisters get married, pack their bags, and start their own families. I helped raise so many precious nieces and nephews, and I loved every minute of it. But in the quiet moments, late at night in the girls' dorm, I used to wonder if my turn would ever come. I had this little dream tucked away in my heart, a dream of a husband who was gentle and kind, and a baby of my own to hold. When I met Stephen, everything just clicked. It was like the Lord said, "See, I was preparing you for this." Marrying him was the start of my greatest adventure. And then, just a few months later, we saw that little pink line. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor, just staring at the test, shaking. The wait was officially over. I wasn't just going to be Aunt Jana anymore. I was going to be Mom. Finding out I was pregnant was such a whirlwind. We had just celebrated our first anniversary, and we were still very much in the honeymoon phase. But God had a different timeline. I wanted to tell Stephen in a special way, but I'm terrible at keeping secrets. As soon as he walked through the door that evening, covered in sawdust from the house, I just blurted it out. The look on his face is something I will treasure forever. He dropped his tool belt and just picked me up. We announced it to the world in August, and the outpouring of love from you all was overwhelming. I read every single comment. To know that so many of you were praying for me during my single years made this moment even sweeter. But as the excitement settled, the reality set in. We had a baby coming in January and a house that didn't have a ceiling in the living room. Moving to Nebraska was the biggest leap of faith I've ever taken. I lived in Tontitown, Arkansas my entire life. My parents, my siblings, my garden, everything I knew was there. Packing up my life into boxes felt like peeling away layers of my identity. I remember driving away from the big house, looking in the rearview mirror, and seeing my mom waving goodbye. It hit me then that I wasn't just moving, I was leaving my safety net. Stephen has been amazing, but Nebraska is different. It's colder, and city life in Lincoln is a big adjustment from the farm. I miss the baby sheep toddling around in the spring. I miss having Jessa or Joy just down the road for a coffee. But building this new life with Stephen, even though I get homesick, has taught me that home isn't a zip code. It's wherever your family is. And my family is right here in this messy, dusty, wonderful house. When Stephen first showed me this house, I had to use a lot of imagination. It wasn't exactly move-in ready. It was built a long time ago, and let's just say it had a lot of character. There was shag carpet in the bathrooms. Who does that? And layers of wallpaper that looked like they were from 3 different decades. It smelled like old dust and cedar, but the bones were good. Stephen, being the builder that he is, saw the potential immediately. He walked around tapping on walls saying, "We can move this, we can open this up." I was standing there, 5 months pregnant, thinking, honey, do we really want to knock down walls right now? but I trusted his vision. We bought it knowing it would be a project, but I don't think either of us realized just how big of a project it would turn out to be. We thought it was a refresh, but it turned into a complete overhaul. There is nothing quite like the sound of a sledgehammer waking you up at 6 a.m. when you are 8 months pregnant. We were in a race against the clock. My due date was January 15th, and in December, we still didn't have drywall in the hallway. Stephen was working so hard. He would work his regular job all day and then come home and work on the house until midnight. I felt so bad because I couldn't help much with the heavy lifting. My nesting instinct was kicking in, and all I wanted to do was scrub floors and set up furniture, but there were no floors to scrub. I just waddled around with water bottles and sandwiches for the guys, trying not to breathe in the drywall dust. It was stressful. Every time I felt a Braxton Hicks contraction, I'd panic and look at the exposed electrical wires thinking, we cannot bring a baby home to this. The lowest point of the renovation, and the funniest looking back, was the kitchen situation. We decided to gut the kitchen completely because the cabinets were falling apart. But that meant for about 6 weeks, we had no sink, no stove, and no counters. I was washing our dinner plates in the bathtub. Imagine being 30, 4 weeks pregnant, leaning over the side of a tub to scrub a pot. We ate a lot of takeout and microwave meals. One night, I just sat on the bathroom floor and cried over a dirty fork. It was just the hormones and the exhaustion. Stephen came in, saw me crying, and just started laughing. He sat down with me and finished the dishes. It was a mess, but it's one of those memories I know we will tell Archie about when he's older. Your mom washed dishes in the tub so you could have a nice kitchen. I had such a specific vision for the nursery. I wanted a forest theme with soft greens and natural wood, very peaceful and calm. I had pinned so many ideas on Pinterest. I wanted to paint a mural on the wall myself. You know I love to paint. But as the weeks ticked by, the mural turned into just get paint on the walls. We barely got the crib assembled before I went into labor. In fact, the door to the nursery wasn't even hung yet. We had a sheet tacked up for privacy. It wasn't the perfect Instagram ready reveal I had dreamed of. There were still tools in the corner and a box of flooring that hadn't been laid down. But when we put the crib in the center of the room, it finally felt real. It wasn't perfect, but it was ready enough. It was a Tuesday night when things started happening. Nebraska in January is no joke. It was freezing outside and starting to snow. I had been feeling off all day, just restless. I was organizing the pantry, which was finally finished, when I felt the first real wave. I called Stephen and said, I think it's time. He dropped his tools. Literally, I heard them hit the floor and ran to get the bags. The drive to the hospital was intense. The roads were slick with ice, and every bump in the road was not fun during a contraction. Stephen was driving with 2 hands on the wheel, white-knuckled, trying to get us there safely. I was in the passenger seat, breathing through the waves and staring at the snowflakes hitting the windshield. It was so quiet and peaceful outside, but inside the car, our whole world was about to shift. Labor is never exactly how you plan it, is it? We had a birth plan, but God had a different one. Things were progressing slowly at first, and then suddenly everything sped up. There was a moment where the doctors got very quiet, and the room felt heavy. They were monitoring the baby's heart rate, and I could see the concern on Stephen's face. He was holding my hand so tight I thought it might break, just whispering prayers over me. I was scared. I'll be honest. After waiting so long for this baby, the thought of anything going wrong was terrifying. But then, after what felt like hours of pushing and praying, I heard it. The most beautiful sound in the world. A strong, loud cry. The doctor lifted him up, and time just stopped. He was pink, he was screaming, and he was perfect. The fear vanished instantly, replaced by a love so big it felt like it would burst my chest. We made it. He was finally here. Seeing Stephen hold his son for the first time, that is an image I will carry with me forever. This big, strong man who can tear down walls and build houses was suddenly so gentle. He looked at this tiny 8-pound bundle and just wept. We named him Archie Gerald. Archie means a truly brave, and we want him to be a brave man of God. He has Stephen's nose and my chin, I think. Those first few hours in the hospital were like a bubble. It was just the three of us, quiet and safe. We stared at him, counted his toes, and marveled at how God knit him together. It was peaceful. There was no drywall dust, no noise, no construction, just soft blankets and baby smells. I didn't want to leave that bubble because I knew what was waiting for us back home. Oh, the drive home was nerve-wracking, driving 10 miles per hour the whole way. But walking through the front door, that was the real shock. In the hospital, everything is sterile and clean. Walking into our house, the first thing I smelled wasn't new baby, it was sawdust. There were tools on the dining table. There was a layer of dust on the floor that had settled while we were gone. I just stood there with Archie in his car seat and thought, what have we done? The contrast between this fragile new life and the chaotic construction zone was overwhelming. I had a moment of panic. Is it safe for him here? Is it too dusty? Stephen immediately started cleaning, bless his heart, trying to carve out a clean path for us to the bedroom. It was a humble homecoming, to say the least. That first night home is a blur of exhaustion and worry. Because we were still renovating, the house wasn't exactly airtight. It was January in Nebraska, and I was convinced Archie was going to freeze. We had space heaters running safely away from the baby, of course, and I swaddled him in so many layers, he looked like a little marshmallow. Every time he made a sound, I jumped up. I was so paranoid about the dust. I kept checking his nose, wiping down the bassinet, and asking Stephen if he thought the air purifier was working hard enough. We didn't sleep at all. Not just because of the feeding schedule, but because we were essentially camping in our own house. It was cold, it was messy, and it was hard. But looking at him sleeping peacefully in the middle of it all, it reminded me that babies don't need a perfect house. They just need warm arms. I have to brag on my husband for a minute. Stephen has been a superhero. Most dads take paternity leave and just relax, but Stephen has been pulling double duty. He wakes up with me for feedings, changes diapers, and then, while Archie naps, he goes into the other room to hang drywall. I've walked in and seen him holding Archie in one arm while reading blueprints or sanding a piece of trim with the other as carefully. He is determined to finish this house for his son. Watching him switch from builder mode to dad mode in a split second melts my heart. He's exhausted. We both are, but he never complains. He just drinks another coffee, gives me a kiss, and gets back to work. He is building our home with his own 2 hands, literally and figuratively. About a week after we got home, my mom came up to visit. I have never been so happy to see a familiar face in my life. She walked in, took one look at the plastic sheeting hanging in the hallway and the tools on the dining table, and her eyes just got so wide. She didn't say anything negative, of course. She's too sweet for that. But I could tell she was thinking, my daughter is living in a construction site. She immediately went into grandma mode. She held Archie for hours so I could take a shower. A real long shower. She helped me organize the few cabinets we did have and even tried to sweep up the dust. Though it just came right back, having her there reminded me of home. She told me stories about when she and Dad were first starting out and how they lived in a tiny rental while building their first house. It made me feel less crazy. It reminded me that every family starts somewhere, usually with a lot of mess and a lot of love. Okay, confession time. We made a terrible decision. 2 weeks after bringing Archie home, Stephen decided it was the perfect time to install a wood-burning fireplace in the living room. I don't know why I agreed to this. Maybe it was the sleep deprivation. So there we were with a newborn baby and a giant hole in the side of our house. It was freezing outside, and we literally had a tarp covering the opening at night. Stephen was laying bricks inside, while Archie was napping in the swing just a few feet away. The dust was everywhere. Again, I remember sitting on the couch, nursing the baby, watching Stephen mix mortar, and just laughing. It was absurd. We were freezing dusty and tired, but we were going to have a really nice fire, eventually. We definitely learned a lesson about timing that week. Breastfeeding is hard enough without adding a renovation into the mix. You're trying to keep everything sterile and clean, but when you live in a construction zone, a clean is a relative term. I felt like I was constantly wiping things down. I had a little station set up in the bedroom with my water, snacks, and burp cloths, and I covered it with a towel to keep the drywall dust off. Every time I sat down to feed him, I'd have to shake off the blanket first. I was so paranoid about him breathing it in. I became the dust police. I made Stephen change his clothes in the garage before he could even come near us. It was stressful, trying to create a sterile bubble for my baby in a house that was being torn apart. But Archie didn't seem to mind. As long as he was eating, he was happy. Just when we thought we were making progress, the house threw us a curveball. We were replacing the back door, and when Stephen pulled up the old threshold, the wood underneath just crumbled. It was completely rotted. My heart sank. I knew what that meant. More time, more money, and more mess. I just sat on the floor and cried. It felt like we would never be finished. I just wanted a floor. I just wanted to walk to the backyard without stepping over a hole. Stephen was so calm, though. He just said, "It's okay, Jay, we can fix this." He cut out the rot, framed it up new, and had it solid by the end of the day. It was a reminder that sometimes you have to dig up the ugly stuff to build a strong foundation. It was a good metaphor for life, even if I didn't appreciate it at the moment. Adjusting to life in Lincoln has been interesting. I grew up on a farm with acres of land, gardens, and animals everywhere. Here, we have neighbors right next door. I can hear them mowing their lawns. It's a different pace. I miss the quiet of Tontatown sometimes. I miss going out to the garden to pick dinner. But there are perks to city life, too. Stephen can run to the hardware store in 5 minutes, which he does a lot. We can order takeout if the kitchen is out of commission. I'm finding my new rhythm here. I'm learning to navigate the grocery stores, finding a new church, and making this place feel like my home, not just Stephen's house. It's a transition, but with Archie and Stephen by my side, I'm starting to love this little Nebraska life. Finally, after weeks of dust and noise, we finished one room, the living room. Stephen put the last piece of trim up, painted the walls a soft, warm white, and we moved our furniture in. When we laid the rug down and lit a fire in that fireplace, yes, the one that caused so much trouble, I just sat there and cried happy tears. It was our sanctuary. The rest of the house might still be a disaster zone, but in here, it was peaceful. I sat in the rocking chair with Archie, watching the snow fall outside the new window, and I felt such a deep sense of gratitude. We had a roof over our heads, a warm fire, and a healthy baby boy. That room became our little island of calm. It gave me hope that eventually the whole house would feel this way. It was a glimpse of the future we are building here, one room at a time. People often ask me if I regret moving to a fixer-upper right as I was starting my family. And honestly, no, because this house is just like our life right now. It's a work in progress. It's messy, it's loud, and sometimes things break. But underneath all that, the foundation is strong. We are building this life together, brick by brick. Every nail Stephen drives is an act of love for his family. Every meal I cook in our makeshift kitchen is a memory we are making. I waited 34 years for this chaos. I prayed for the sleepless nights and the piles of laundry. So I'll take the dust. I'll take the noise. Because in the middle of it all, I have my husband, I have my son, and I have a home filled with the Lord's presence. This is just the beginning of the Wissmann family story, and I wouldn't trade this beautiful mess for anything in the world. Thank you for walking through it with us. We love you all,